just going on YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the 11th album by rapper LL Cool J. Basically, this project is called Todd. This album is called Todd Smith, and it came out in the spring of 2006. So this has some pretty big name production type fares on here. A lot of big name, particular kind of prolific guests for the time. Just within a pitch. Around this particular time, mixtapes were kind of popping with folks like Jeezy and Lil Wayne and folks like that, Joel Santana, some of that particular type fare. This kind of has some of that thrown in. I was thinking that this particular album is going to be more of like the sort of fares with Jennifer Lopez being on here with their hit single All I Have from like back in J-Lo's 2002 album, which was kind of a primer for the way mixtape rap was kind of amalgamated with some of those DJ Drama and Don Cannon type of just more errand running, house cleaning type music songs within the pitch behind it. But this album does not go for like that typical mixtape format as full bound, but it is a pretty good shot in the arm as like the big city type appeal, but it does within an aspect that's not being as quite street and underground. This is very much like a very plush and kind of suave type project here, just telling by the album cover within the pitch behind it that it's just more sensual within the pitch, not as much full bound. I mean, there are some street hops on here, but for the most part, these are not songs in terms of like going out to dance clubs and just taking shots as far as those pitch can happen. It's kind of the conduct of this, a little bit of errand running, getting some bills paid with the standard kind of Tuesday, Wednesday type push, but then also within the aspect of just having some bells in mind as far as that particular fare kind of happens with like the more just kind of either just after worship kind of romantic fare or just the after effect of wine and dine type aspects of just like some standard and pretty steady date living as far as those pitch kind of happen just within the tone. So some good concepts just within the pitch. Now this, like, I will say that there were a handful of snags on this particular product, not huge amounts, but just like more than a couple. So I just say this album is relatively, for the most part, overwhelmingly pretty good within the pitch. This album is pretty whelmingly good within the aspect behind it. Definitely gonna get pretty much like an above solid type score, but it's just an aspect because there's not as many full bound songs. It's just kind of within the pitch that just a few snags kind of subdue it. It's kind of the same thing that happened when I reviewed LL Cool J's The Definition from 2004. It's the same type pitch. I wanted to give that album a 9 to still continue. That particular, it still continues to kind of minorly bug me that The Definition got like an 8.75 because I feel like the quality of that just, it had some of LL Cool J's best songs on there like Headsprung and Apple. The Definition had some of LL Cool J's career highlight songs on there like Headsprung and Apple Cobbler, some of those type of ones, but this was maybe short like a song or two just within the pitch or maybe 3 within the tone. But for the most part, that's a pretty whelmingly good. You can find that review. I'm probably going to put together like an LL Cool J reviews playlist because there's more of these coming. I do want to get to Exit 13 from 2008, some of those type fares. But yeah, I like these mid and late 2000s LL Cool J albums. I also need to get to this 2002 album. But yeah, so this is kind of the balance. I mean, this is just like a basic variation, like a New York kind of city hop, but just like some of the fare that mixtapes kind of do, just in a more commercial sense. So it does kind of mildly have some of that mixtape type flavor that you were getting from southern hip hop artists like Jeezy and some of those type folks, Lil Wayne, some of that type fare, but it just does it in like a more commercial kind of cadence along with some date living in there thrown in. So it's a good type aspect. Paying attention to that because it just kind of felt like it came out at a more seldom time. Like LL Cool J was pushing 40 around this particular time, so it's just within the aspect as far as those fares going to happen. Realizing that folks were probably messing more full blown with like, you know, Lil Wayne and like Lil Wayne, Young Jock, Young Dro, some of those type of folks that were kind of popping throughout like the spring and summer of 2006, folks like them franchise boys. But I look after it, this holds its ground. I definitely had to say it's a good type product here. It just does the same thing. It's the same thing that happened with Busta Rhymes around this time. He got some real quality and just vicious singles off of his Big Bang album from 2006. Same thing with like Ghostface Killah with Fish Scale, some of those type of folks. The NY sound was kind of doing things here even within the pitch. This may, I mean, I think this does at least have one ringtone rap song like the song Control Myself, but for the most part, just kind of within the fare, yeah, it's just like I was saying that this is day life and evening nightlife within those pitches, and it works towards the tones of what it does. Mostly kind of whelmingly solid, I'd have to say, with the pitch. So we'll get towards it. So basically, there were 4 singles here. There were 4 singles off this product, one of which is kind of a fusion single, but I do recommend all the singles on here for the most part, one of which is an almost song. That's one of the main reasons. Like, this album probably would have gotten an 8.75 as well. It's just on the cusp of getting that, but because one of the singles is an almost song, there's actually 3 songs I don't recommend out of the 13 on here, plus 1 almost song, so it's basically a 9.5 out of 13. So just within the sense of supposing what the score is going to be. Well, we'll get towards it. So basically, the lead single or the promo single that kicked off the promotion of this album was It's LL and Santana, which has Joel Santana on here. It's like a buzzing kind of mixtape like promo single. Kind of get within those pitches. Goes pretty well with what you want. The fusion single within this particular set of these songs, and this is like some city outing kind of frolic and some good gap to kind of get. So it's just one of those type ones. Just takes it back back to like the way that like NWA and like Public Enemy, some of those type of folks were kind of doing, considering that was the movement that that was part of the movement that LL Cool J helped kick off in like the mid and late 80s as far as those pitch kind of happens, just within the tone, realizing that he does go back from that particular point in 2006. He went back almost 20 years within those fairs behind it. So it's just a good concept, kind of get that there, is being able to say within those aspects. I'd have to say, and actually I think he did go back over 20 years, because I think his first album, Radio or something like that, came out in 1985. So it was 21 years from that particular pitch, with some good concepts. This takes it back to like late 80s, early 90s rap, just with some city hop kind of disc, standard Get Subway, some pitches like that, Toke one maybe behind a city building, some of that type of, just some gab with the homies, just some quick kind of just initial kind of dap, just in the sense, and then just kind of out and about, just with like the standard kind of makeshift, maybe not so much makeshift, but just typical kind of productive type data within the tone, just some good aspects of just like some, I mean, this doesn't like a mixtape type form, it's just one of those type ones. It's not really as full bound, kind of like a hustle song, but just has like some bustle about it. This has like the aspect of just feeling jazzy and just ritzy as far as those pitches kind of happening. Not ritzy in terms of rich, but just the tone and just kind of, you know, chipper, and just with the aspect, this real pep to your step, just has some good tones for that, just mixtape type flavor. And then What You Want with Freeway is like a similar type song, not quite as bravado induced and not quite as like banner, I'd have to say, but it's a good follow-up 1-2 punch to kind of have within that fair. There's not many songs like this on this particular album. Most of this sounds pretty ladies oriented within the tone, like I was saying, but these two ones are at least some city hop type songs. So What You Want is like a city hop kind of loud pack, kind of out on the weekday, kind of summer proud to kind of get here. Definitely some pep in your step, just feel good romping, kind of get within that pitch. So not so much residential type fair. It's not so much just Taco Bell run, gas station run type stuff, but just more if you live in bigger cities, places like Philadelphia, Boston, some of those type places, just within the tone. More places like that. Trying to think of some other fairs just within some of that type fair. Places like Detroit, places like Pittsburgh, some of those type places where there's going to be like some hot dog stands and big city skyscrapers, some of that type fair. It's just a good concept, but just LL kind of in his element, just giving some city hop type ones, just to get some Subway and kickback with just like standard chit chat on your phone, just standard kind of romping of a day just in the pitch. So some good type tone for that. Control Myself is probably one of the best songs out of this particular album. This is like the true second single, but it's kind of the pseudo third single within a sense, but this has Jennifer Lopez on here, so it's another quality team up from them, just like the hit single from Jennifer Lopez's 2002 album, so it's just within the pitch. But this one is a little bit more dance crazy about it. It's like a sparkly kind of dance club snap, kind of get here. It's a super step out, kind of dense social commotion about this particular one, just kind of TGIF, just amidst like the song is particularly kind of TGIF, just amidst like the night fair, just within those pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. I just like the conduct of this particular song. It has a pretty similar production to like a DJ Khaled song. I forget what it was, but it has Lil Wayne on there. Control Myself's production is very similar, almost completely identical to the beat on Holla At Me from DJ Khaled in like the spring and summer 2006. So both these songs had the same type of production around the same time. Interesting type fare for that, but it definitely works within the touch as far as being able to nail that particular appeal. So it just has some good conducts there. I like the LL Cool J one. This is probably the bigger song. This is one that I'd say that hit. This particular song hit like the top 5 of the Billboard 100. So this was a huge song back in the day in early 2006. So it's just a good type of appeal. It might have actually been the DJ Khaled song that bit this particular song as far as those fairs going to have. It's just some excellent type just kind of get here. It's real nice radio ready snap to have just for taking bells out in like a dance club type craze. It's going out for like Friday, Thursday type fair within those pitches. Just definitely what I'd say. Good type conduct for that. Definitely need another song like this on here. Now the thing about it is a lot of this is more romantic type fairs, not so much like this is probably the most frenetic one, kind of similar to like the JLo album from 2002, where it does have like further moments with Bella's in mind. It's just kind of the concept that it goes, like I'd probably say apart from maybe Ooh Wee, I'd say for the most part, most of these songs just kind of have more this kind of like sluggish type appeal within it. It's not so much slow jams like in the sense of like balladry, but it's just kind of the concept that the snap of this particular song, Control Myself, is just not replicated. But so yeah, the Almost song in terms of the 4 singles is Freeze. I do appreciate this song, but just kind of in a haphazard type sense, or not as full blown. I'd say it's like a day after hours kind of saunter to kind of get here. This basic kind of touch bass and like a rouse kind of smoky after work shift. And it's like a basic kind of touch bass and like a rouse kind of smoky after work shift type fare within that. Just a good song to enjoy, grub, and some wine as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just kind of one of those type ones and just like, hey, it's been a minute, just within those tones as far as those pitch kind of having this kind of touch bass within some of that type fare. It's kind of caught up in like the makeshift dredge as far as those pitch kind of having just the aspect behind it. Just kind of life being annoying, some ruffled days just within the pitch as far as that particular fair kind of happens, just the aspect of being able to say, it's kind of the aspect of being able to say what up though, just chunking up the deuce to the bell as far as those pitch kind of happen, just some standard rekindling within the pitch behind it, just good type aspects for that. So that's the concept of these singles, but the reason as to why it's kind of an almost song is just the pitch behind it. That, I mean, it is a good song within a pitch. I look after it's just kind of the tone. So yeah, I would say, I don't know, it's just within the pitch. I might wind up saying that it's not an almost song, so I can't think it's the full bound reason. It just kind of feels within the frenetic aspectness, just the kind of dismantlement when you pay more attention to the lyrics, just with Life Jenny's typical being like prison type fare, just makes you think like the paranoia of this, like having scuzzy type days just within the pitch, just hardships, just kind of within the concept. But I'd say probably within the tone, it is a pretty good quality single here. So yeah, I'd pretty much say I recommend all four of the singles just within the pitch. So yeah, basically 10 out of 13 just within the tone as far as those aspects can happen. So yeah, basically I had to say about this album, the only three songs I don't recommend on here would just be Down the Aisle featuring 112, We're Gonna Make It featuring Mary Mary, and then So Sick. Basically the last three songs that you hear, So Sick is a remix, which is a song by Neo off of his debut album from 2006. So basically the So Sick remix just was a poor type version. It was just a little bit more emphasized type one, a little bit more saccharine type version like the So Sick song. I think the original So Sick was just a great, perfect radio snap out, but this one just really embellishes the concept. It just doesn't deliver as well. Just makes it a little bit more plushy and just more emphasized, but just didn't have like the full aspects about it. We're Gonna Make It's just kind of like a gospel-like song. This one didn't have as much full-bound kind of appeal. It was just trying to be like a mixtape type one, something similar to like Church for Thugs by The Game off his documentary type album, but just didn't nail it within the same pitch of that, just in the pitch as far as that particular one goes. And then Down the Aisle is just kind of a real homely type one within the pitch. I mean, it's a good quality type song for marriage as far as those fairs can happen. It's just kind of within the aspect that this is probably one of the more essential ones out this particular album, just with an aspect behind it. I mean, it's a necessary song within the pitch, but I just didn't vibe with it as full bound. But it is there for like those particular conducts as far as those appeals kind of happen. So I would look after it. But I would have to say this album has some well-meaning good call. I would have to say this album has some well-meaning good qualities about it. Just a lot of good aspects within this tone. This is pretty suited to like the concept of just having like some good ladies deliveries within these aspects of just being able to have the concept of this standard here, just different moments for different types of the week as far as those pitch can happen. This Tuesday type music, Sunday type music, Friday type music, just from the aspect of just being able to have some of these type moments for this multiple kind of rounds as far as being caught up. So it's just within a pretty star-studded type of appeal within that. But I would say, like I said, I recommend Freeze now. So I'm going to go ahead and say that 10 out of 13. I'll go ahead and give this album, once again, just like Definition from 2004, I'm going to give this album like an 8.75. If you look after it, I mean, yeah, 10 out of 13 is pretty mostly good within a sense, but that's still relatively close. Somewhat to half the album. I feel like 7 out of 13 would be a little bit more than half the album, where that would be like a 6 out of 10. So just three more songs like that, going from a 6 out of 10 to like a 9.75 would just seem within the tone. It's just kind of an art. Saying a 10 out of 13 in terms of the score is just a little bit trickier within the affability as to like the real hodgepodging of word to particularly say about it. I'd say if it would have been 11 out of 13, I'd definitely say I'd get like a 9.25 somewhere within that fair, somewhere pretty close to like a 10. But I just look at, it's 8.75, so that's real solitary good enough. I mean, it has a lot of star-studded type appeals, but yeah, some nice ones on here. So there's some ones like I've changed as a nice ones, like a passively kind of imperative kind of composed city makeshift kind of get here. This one definitely reminds me of like Mary J. Blige off of like her 2005 album, like Be Without You, some of those type songs I'd have to say. Just typical kind of NY type push, some of those type fairs. Just typical kind of glazed Tuesday, just with an aspect behind it. It's one of those type ones to just be stuck in traffic like a big city type sense as far as those fairs can happen. Just typical kind of aspect of just some quality, just in the particular, just like nice fittingness within the this push like that. Just like the push like a full traffic and kind of makeshift day, I'd have to say there. Best Dress is a nice one. It's like a plushy kind of evening primp type music kind of get here, and just a primer for date night as far as those pitch can happen. Just some step out kind of initial moments for the night with Bay as far as those pitch can happen. Just kind of the conduct of this. She gets to your house in that type fair and you get ready to step out as far as those fairs can happen. Just kind of the conduct of this kind of one, and just basically just primp type music. Just put on some cologne, some of that type fair, just in the aspect and just looking snazzy, some of that typeness, just be able to get towards like this standard kind of just the initial kind of conversation, like hey, is that what you're wearing? Some of those type pitches. I mean, not to say that in a derogatory way, but just in the pitch, like the initial kind of jabs and just pitches like that as far as like the kickoff, just in the aspect behind it. Just kind of real nice one to kind of have for some of that. I feel like some of these type ones, just the aspect as far as those pairs kind of happen. I mean, like I was saying, with this being a compact kind of album, you do get more moments for just amongst like the differential type tones more so than like 3 or 4 like the same type flavor. You would think maybe you'd want like 2 or 3 more like the song like Control Myself or some of those type pitches, but it does have differential type aspects for it, like I was saying. Favorite flavor is a nice one. This like a Pink Skies kind of romantic evening product kind of get here. I'd have to say just a jazzy kind of social night. This would have to say just some expensive food, kind of spoil a chica type tone for that. Now, favorite flavor feels like a song that Biggie would have done in like 95 or 97 as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a real emphatic type one to kind of get within that pitch. Just once again, Pink Skies kind of emphasis just within the tone. Just real romantic kind of date night. Just good restaurant type music, social night. Like I was saying, expensive food. Just good type tone for just spoil oil and bass, some of those type pitches, just finer things just within the pitch behind it, just real nice, not necessarily just like Wendy's, Arby's type music, but just within the tone. It's not like it can't be, but just in the aspect of saying a little bit more where money's going to be amongst the product of it, just within the tone behind it. Some good type tones for like some good plushy kind of step out, just would have to say. Ooh-wee is like a nice one. Now this is like the closest thing to like Control Myself I'd say, but it's just a little bit in more an album cut type fashion. This feels more of like an R&B type song than a rap song. It's like a vibey and satiny kind of dance club bounce kind of get here, just more personal kind of groove to kind of get within that sense. So the dance song was just not as much like platonic, oh, I didn't know who this person was like 10 or 15 minutes ago type pitch. This is actually the concept of dancing with someone within the aspect as far as saying, hey, we're familiar as far as those pitch can happen. Just good night feeling, good personal groove night, I'd have to say. Just feeling bass vibe, I'd have to say about this particular song. It's just an overall Liddy type one to kind of get here. So it's just good conduct. Like the fact that Genuine was on here because not too many folks were fucking with him past like the early 2000s. So it's a good type cameo to kind of get him there. Yeah, it's just a pretty plushy type overall appeal. This very glossy type song on the song Ooh Wee just really works pretty well. The closest thing to like a 1-2 punch, if you absolutely need more songs like Control Myself, just the closest thing I'd have to suppose about that. Number one fan is a nice one. It's like a glazed kind of late day spicy venue. Retired to kind of get within those pitches, and by retired just mean the concept of being out and about social wise, but just the concept of just a little bit more just saunter in mind, or just a little bit more laid back, just not quite full blown ferocious on the dance club, but just a little bit more just kind of mingle schmooze type music, just an aspect behind it. Just grab a brew, kind of dinner out, kind of stellar rolly. It's definitely like a grab a brew type song, just a dinner out, kind of stellar, kind of rosy, and hands full kind of shebang. I'd say about this particular one, just hot song kind of get here. So it's just one aspect. I like the Latin tinge about this particular one. Is some almost not necessarily salsa type music, but just more restaurant type fare, where you'd have like a restaurant in addition to like a dance club. Some of those type pitches, just to be able to say that it's just kind of more smoky type appeals within that, but it's just kind of the concept of just being able to have like once again some more date night. Goes pretty much a spicier version, like a song like Favorite Flavor, I'd had to say, and kind of amidst like that same kind of evening glaze of songs like I've Changed and Favorite Flavor, just in those aspects. Just some real kind of this day after hours 7 o'clock p.m. type music. Definitely I'd say a good type tone for that. Then Preserve the Sexy is a nice one. Now this has a chick that I've noticed that 50 Cent is beef with a number of times. I don't know too much about her, but I remember Tierra Marie. I just kind of know haphazardly about her. I wasn't sure if she was like a full-blown musician. Kind of thought she was more like a hip-hop model, something like that, but I just questioned about it. But this is like a city outing kind of duet, I'd have to say here. Just one of those type ones, very similar to like the songs It's LL and Santana and What You Want, just in a more kind of R&B type sense, more for ladies bound, I'd have to say. It's like some big night stepping and like a date night sense, I'd have to say here, just feeling jazzy and kind of wide awake as far as those tones gonna happen with this. So it's just the conduct of just some of those step out type ones, just appreciating like some big city type grooves. It's out in town, just appreciating the starlights, just something that you would expect from like when you think of like 60s swinging type music, just stepping out like some city pizzazz. Some of those type folks that like Kanye West and like Jay-Z kind of do when they go out and like the NY vibe. Just one of the ones like one of the songs like Heart of the City by Jay-Z off of the Blueprint, or Kanye West All the Lights, some of those type pitches, just in a big city type fashion, but it also has like that 60s swing kind of vibes, just starry-eyed, just with the pitch behind it. It's real feeling jazzy about it. Just good type tone for that, just good energy off this particular song. There's some good type tones for that, just looking after. So that's the concept here. Now I don't know if I talked about Best Dressed either, but I'll talk about this one. It's like a plushy kind of evening print music. I think I did talk about this one, but I'll go ahead and talk about it again. Best Dressed is like a plushy kind of evening print music kind of get here, and primer for date night. I had to say just some step out kind of initial moments for a night with Bay. As far, I think I did talk about this one, but just be able to say this has a good Neptune's beat on here, just some good type concepts. Jamie Foxx basically probably does like a hook that Pharrell wrote within those pitches behind it. Just a real nice one kind of get, just the initial kind of chit chat, just in the tone behind this warming up as far as those pitch kind of having just good type tones. So I look after it. So yeah, this album gets an 8.75 out of 10. This would say the social score I'll probably give. I mean, that's a little bit trickier of an aspect to kind of say is full bound with that. I'd probably say the thing about this album is, yeah, it had some social moments in here, and definitely some lady spice within the pitch behind it. Just good evening restaurant and date night type tunes for some of those pitches, and the occasional kind of city step out and some of that type fare, and some makeshift commerce just within the pitch behind it. But I look after in terms of like full bound kind of smash hits, I feel like this album may be shy on like a hit or two within the pitch compared to like the top 5 potential or the top 5 appeal, like the song Control Myself. It doesn't really have a follow up as nearly as large as that. So I'd probably say I'll probably give the social score of this album like a 9.25. Yeah, it's particularly quality, plenty of good lady songs in here for like romantic kind of restaurant nights and pitches like that, and some of that type of wine and dine and just finer things. But I look after it in terms of like the casual kind of appeals, it may be a little bit shy, but look within the tone. It does have some good city hop type pizzazz on here as well, like in a mild mixtape type sense. So it has some pretty good flavors. It's kind of concept that it may have just been shy one hit. So I just look at it within the tone. So 9.25. In terms of the future, like LL Cool J put out an album like the fall of 2024, some pitches like that, or late summer 2024. He had a song song with Eminem on there, some of those type pitches. So it's just good within the tone. I'm not sure when he dropped his previous album before that one. Might have been like there. Yeah, I really don't remember as far as those pitches can happen. I know he at least dropped albums up to 2013, but it's just kind of considering the fact that LL Cool J's been around since like 1985. It's the pitch behind it that he's basically on his fourth or even fifth decade as far as those pitches can have. It's some good type appeals. Yeah, this is a well-mainly type product. I did find myself missing more songs. Like I will say, I found myself missing songs by LL Cool J like Headsprung and Apple Cobbler that were produced by Timbaland. Some of those more dance hopping, like a Southern Pride type sense type hits. Definitely missed some of that particular kind of ferocious energy. But other than that, sounds pretty good shot in the arm for like some bolsterment. Just having some good weekend type appeals, some date night step out just from the pitch behind it. Some good dance hoppers and some good kind of relatively evening makeshift, some of that type there, and the occasional good mixtape city hop. So it's just from the pitch, some good star set type appeals. Mostly pretty much like I've been saying, well-mainly good type product that's pretty much like a relative arguable classic for the most part. Just within the pitch, just maybe a song shy of that, but within the pitch it mostly nails it.